Greetings, community. It's me, Kevin, 1-2 Comic Talk. It's great to be here. Christy, as you normally know, is my co host on this Saturday of Artist Alley. Unfortunately, she did contact me this morning and state that she would have not the ability to attend. I totally understand. Things have been really busy for her of late. Um, so that said, Christy, I hope you get better. I know you're not quote unquote sick. I just know that you're extremely tired and a little fatigued. So I really get that. And I appreciate everything you've done for me in all this time. Every time we've asked of you to be here, you have. So I'm hoping you're watching in the chat. So, Christy, take care, and I'll be talking to you soon. Without further ado, I would like to speak of an individual that I've been wanting on the show for a while. It's been only my own negligence, probably why we haven't received this individual. This person is an artist, writer, a memoirist. I mean, an editor. Worked with Boom Studios, Image, Marvel. I mean, the books are numerous in the sense of the short time that he's been in the industry. Uh, Iceman, Go Go Power Rangers, uh, Self Obsessed, Walking Dead, Super Dinosaur, which you'll see behind me. It's also an animated series. Even of late, Jughead's Time Police. I mean, again, the list is just. But without me continually just going on with the list, and let me just bring this individual in, Mr. Sina Grace. Sina, how are you doing this morning?
I'm a-okay. We're keeping my face off the screen for now because I just thought it'd be more fun to show me drawing than show me making awkward facial expressions. But I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Uh, Kai's presently sleeping. He was up late last night playing video games. He apologizes and said that he probably will pop in a little while later. But for right now, we have the pleasure of speaking with Sina and getting to talk to him. And this, as you well know, this is the first time we actually got to see one of the artists actually do the art while we get to speak with them. So this is a privilege. Thank you, Sina, again.
Yeah. I just feel like there's so much more. This is more interesting to look at, even if it's dumb, than my face. And maybe people can, I don't know, get some kind of entertainment out of it. I'm doing an illustration. I can't quite reveal what it's for, but it's for a band, and I'll get to sort of spill the details about this next month. So anyway, you're just looking at a weird abstract image in the meantime.
Well, cool. Maybe we can actually have you back on when you get to do that reveal.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Nice, nice. So can we first, for the community that may not be familiar with you, can we first go over like a little bio, just something that so we can familiarize the community with you?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to do it in my own words?
Please.
Yeah, I'm as you very, very accurately and in full detail stated, I write and draw comic books. I got started as early as high school. I was an editorial intern at Top Cow Productions while I was in high school. So I would go there, after school, take the bus, do a few hours, and then my mom would pick me up. But I went to college, and then after that, I was self-publishing all through college, and then after that, I started working for Robert Kirkman, the guy who created The Walking Dead, as editorial director for his Skybound imprint at Image Comics. Mm-hmm. And then while I was doing that, I was still illustrating comics. I was doing a series called The Little Depressed Boy that Image Comics published after we had basically been releasing it as a web comic for a few years. Sorry, I forget my own trajectory after a while, but yeah. And then just basically I worked for Robert for a few years and decided to strike out on my own, and I've been freelancing ever since. And in that time, in the past few years, I've been able to work for Marvel, DC, Boom Studios, IDW, Dark Horse. I've worked for everyone. Yeah. And then I think that the thing that most people kind of where they heard my name was doing Iceman at Marvel. And now I'm currently wrapping up this book, Ghosted in LA, from Boom Studios. This is volume one. Please order it. Please review it on Amazon.
Which has been getting some pretty good reviews. Every time I pull out, well, it just to say, I've been every time I come across certain stuff, I keep coming across that, and that's one I'm gonna have to get on trade. I have to admit, it's another one that I missed.
Yeah, please do. And I will say it's a really I learned a lot too as a storyteller with that book, because I went to school for writing, and I went, learning to write prose or whatever. So it's a little novelistic in that, like, the first 100 pages, like the first trade paperback, is all set up for where the series goes. So like you'll read the first trade and you'll be like, oh, this was a little all over the place. But then when you grab issue 5, it just everything starts clicking, and then it just starts. It's like a locomotive that can't be stopped. And I always feel weird trying to sell people on this trade paperback, because it's just, I know it's not my best work, but I feel like then when you really get into it, you're like, oh, I see what he was doing. But I kind of just went a very slow burn and weird route the way I
You
did.
know what
And
I find interesting is that you were talking about when you were working with Robert Kirkman in the early days, and I mean, and this is coming from a naive individual, so please bear with me if I'm way off. Um, it would seem to me that you would think that a person would one start learning with something that they gravitate to, meaning let's say they like, let's say, just penciling, so they want to get their penciling down, and then maybe they want to start progressing and become a decent inker, and then a colorist, and then maybe we want to put their package together, so they start learning how to panel, and then maybe bubble, and then letter, and so forth. And then as you are able to put all that together, then you start looking at the bigger picture of saying, all right, now I want to become a very competent and good and solid editor. And so am I kind of wrong in that kind of analogy?
I just don't think. I mean, different strokes for different folks is kind of the
Well, the
short
reason
answer.
why I'm bringing that up is you went the other way around, meaning you started at your early years is I'm going to start at this high end of understanding, and then once I've done all this, then I'm going to pick and choose the things that I want to do when I want to do them.
Yeah, I guess what I'll say is, I think, like in my case, like, you just take what you can get, like. And so when I was younger, I I had gotten to know this editor at Top Cow, Renee Geerlings, via email. Like, we would just I basically became pen pals with her. And then I joked, like, okay, when can I intern for you? And then oddly enough, or as fate would have it, like, her existing intern had, like, just quit, and she was like, yeah, when can you start? um,
Oh wow.
so back that was just till I didn't realize, like, I thought I would be able to spend more time with the artists, because back then Top Gal had a bullpen. So they were, Michael Turner and Mark Silvestri were actually there drawing. Granted, they weren't drawing during business hours. It was more like, they'd play foosball. Well, no, Mark never played foosball, but, like, that would happen. The drawing would happen, like, at midnight, not at 4 p.m.
Sure.
So anyway, all this is to say is, like, that was what I could get, was, I was telling you before we started, like, I love comic books. I just love everything about them. Like, I if I wasn't interning at Top Cow, then I was working at the local comic store, during summer break or on weekends. So it was like, anything and everything. I just wanted to learn it all. Um, and and then, you know, like with the Kirkman thing, I didn't want to do it because I was like, well, I don't really like want to be editing comic books. And a friend was like, just take the job. Like you don't know what that is. Like just take the job. It's a mutual. You're both auditioning each other. Like you can not like the job and quit. Like you can say this isn't a fit, but like you need to take the job. And it was a really valuable experience. But then after a while, it was taking up too much of my time,
Mhm.
and I'm doing the thing I want to be doing, which is this stuff. I want to be creating. Um, and then with the lettering, coloring, and all that stuff, that just came from like uh, when I was doing, books at Image Comics. Like I learned the quickest way to get more time on the schedule and more time on a project is to just take on the other responsibilities, so you can buy more days from production. Like it's like, oh, if I design the book, like I get another week because production doesn't have to design it. Okay, cool, I'll design it. Like it's like, oh, if I can color the cover, I get 3 more days. Okay, yeah, I'll color the cover.
Ah,
So it definitely, like, yeah, nothing. It really took until, like, there was no real battle plan for what I've been doing until about 2 or 3 years ago, and that's sort of when I said, all right, like, none of this stuff makes sense. Like you said, it's like, wow, you're here, you're there, and none of it really was adding up to much because it's so disjointed that finally, like 2 years ago, I was just like, all right, you need to kind of start being a little more deliberate in your decisions, so that way the tapestry has a kind of clearer macro
so you're kind of
view.
a jack of all trades out of necessity, not necessarily because you out of desire. And that, I mean, though it's obviously, it seems to me that it has augmented your ability to not only write but to do everything else. I mean, it's strengthened all these traits, but
Yeah, necessity and luck. Like
but
I,
the end all goal really was for you to go back to your first love, which is to create and I would assume to write to these characters that you create.
yeah, I kind of, I think the piece I made with the sort of jack of all trades nature of what I've been doing is like, I just feel like I like telling stories, and sometimes the stories are comics, sometimes they're just illustrations, sometimes it's, just a text, sometimes it's a text message. And I think it's the most liberating way to kind of like look at what I'm doing, because I don't feel like I could ever confine myself to any one thing. Like people are like, oh, if you could only be a writer or an artist, which would you pick? And I'm like, I don't have to pick. So why am I gonna pick? Like that's like, which of your children are you gonna shoot in the face? Like, I'm not gonna. Like I don't have to. Like it's like, no, I don't have to pick.
Well, actually, that brings up a great point. Have you come across projects to where you've felt, oh wow, I really just have to write for this? I have an idea who I'd rather choose to do the art, or the other way around. Or I mean, have you come to these moments where you chose these options of not doing something because of you felt more compelled to do something else on it?
Yeah, that comes from like skill level or desire. Like when I'll get asked something, and when it comes to like, oh, do you want to draw it? It's like, no, I don't. I don't want to draw like exploding buildings for a year of my life. Like I'll write that because it takes 10 seconds to write, Superman flies out of exploding building, but that's like 3 days of
Sure.
someone's life. Draw that one image. Um, and then it's like scheduling too. With Ghost in LA, I I knew I wanted an artist because I knew we were going to do 12 issues, and at the time I had other gigs, so I was like, I can't do this for a year. I can't draw, this book for a year. And I was a little scared too. That's daunting to draw. It's going to be what, almost 300 pages of art. Um, So I was like, nope, let's make Siobhan Keenan draw it. But I did, but because I'm still me, I designed all the characters with her. Like I sent her sketches, then she, did her versions of the characters, then I gave notes on that. So it's like it was still really involved. But I didn't. I just knew I didn't want to be drawing that book, And then now I'm kind of feeling the opposite, where I'm very much excited to kind of like, whatever the next book in my life is going to be something I want to write and draw. But yeah, it's more like what would be more beneficial to the project, like me drawing it selfish or someone else drawing it because they're better than me, and it's try to make the most pragmatic decision possible.
Right. No, and I totally get that. And seeing that again comes from that how should I say above the artist, above the writer type mentality. What I mean by that is that creator or creative officer or the editor or those type of mentalities. That doesn't come normally from. How should I say? It's easy to let ego take over and go, no, I'm going to do it all. You know what I mean? And not because I feel that that's the best for the project. It's just that's the best for me. So the fact that you're able to acknowledge that, hey, you know what? I would rather step back on this portion or this because I really want to focus on this. Or I believe if I did this, I have a person in mind to do this because together we can make this aspect or this portion or the whole arc or whatever you're trying to convey really happen. And
Yeah. I mean, it's
that's insightful, I guess, is what I'm getting, and that comes with a form of veteranship that usually takes a lot of years. I mean, you again, to me, you're young. You're really young, and you have so much veteranship for someone, or wisdom and veteranship for someone that's relatively young in the field.
I just listen to older people. Like that's the thing. It's like if someone you says something, that comes from experience, like just listen to them, and that's the thing. I think people also believed in me enough to talk to me and put me in my place. Like I have been, yeah, because I'm pretty precocious, but I have been given dress downs or whatever, by Robert, by my old boss Renee, where like you do just get kind of taken into a corner and told like, what the fuck are you thinking, or what the fuck did you just do? That kind, and you got
Right.
to listen. Like these people don't. You can tell when someone's trying to knock you down because they're rotten versus they believe you're better than whatever just happened. Um, and yeah, I've been lucky that I haven't been around too many rotten people, and B, that some pretty, that's the thing is I always tell people it's like Robert Kirkman is a millionaire. Like I, I don't like, you don't need to, I don't know he's a millionaire, but I know he's a millionaire. Like, he's a millionaire. So why would I not listen to a millionaire's advice about how to, find success in comic books? Like, that's just why would I ever argue with that? And if I do, it's because I make a conscious choice to honor what my own version of rules is, and that's typically like I either am lazy, I'm just like lazy and don't want to do something, like I'm like, I don't want to do that kind of promotion, that's exhausting. Like I accept the consequences.
Well, it's actually funny that you say that because for an individual that is self-admittedly lazy, you are one of the more busier individuals out there. And what I mean by that is, you either are talking to multiple publishers at once or have multiple projects going on at once.
I mean, yeah, I'm still ambitious, but there's always, I feel like there's always more to be doing. I've learned, and I think that's the thing is, I dated a lawyer, and the best advice I got, which was also kind of, it was advice I needed until I didn't need it, which was just like, you're gonna end every day on a deficit. Like, you're gonna not get everything you set out to accomplish done in any given day. So, the real trick is how to prioritize what needs to get done if you know you're not going to finish everything in a day.
Sure.
And I think that was a really good bit of advice. I feel like also I reached the other side of it where I was like, this sucks. Like I can also not overbook myself and overextend myself. Like you know, I can just do the normal amount of work instead of kind of trying to do everything.
Which actually, let's go
Yeah.
there. This
Anyway,
is a
yes.
question I kind of ask everybody in one way or another, which is, what's a good way for you to kind of like hit the reset button? How do you just break away from either people or things or stupidity or whatever? I mean, what is your thing?
Um, Expand upon that. What do you mean by
Yeah,
like walking
like for
away?
me,
Like,
sometimes, like right now, um, I do various forms depending on what's going on of breaking away. What I mean by that is sometimes I will sit in meditation. Sometimes I will do some yard work. Sometimes I'll play some video games. Sometimes it like right today after the yard work I'm going to do, I have the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger slash Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover that I want to go all over again. I want to go through them because we're waiting on this last book to drop. That I'm just so these are my ways to kind of like hit the what I mean by reset is when I'm getting frustrated or when I just need to go, I got to break away. These are my escapes.
mm,
So do you have? I mean, do you play video games? Do you like watching, get into a good movie? I mean, what do you like to do to kind of just break away? I guess.
yeah, okay, I thought like how do you get out of like bad business relationships?
Oh
Yeah,
no,
I have a like I got into baking recently, which is super therapeutic because what I needed was like I just need something where it's like I'm not like my pursuit is not tapped into like making money or getting likes on Instagram or like like that's the problem is I think because I do what I love for a living I have no release then. So baking was an awesome release because like I don't do it for money. I don't even like half the stuff I bake. Like it's just for me to bake and give to my friends and then be a good friend. Although I have been baking snickerdoodles and I love snickerdoodles and I'm getting
oh
fat
me
and that's
too.
cool. That's okay. That's okay. Um, but but now, yeah, because I have way too much time on my hands because I can't go out and socialize. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it is
Ooh.
so awesome, and it is so like get into a video game again. Like I have not done
Mhm.
that in years, and it's super relaxing to just. I mean, that's the problem is now I'm like up at all hours. Just playing this video game, like I'll look at the clock and I'll be like, "Wait, how is it 3 a.m.? I haven't done this in years." Um, and
See,
it's
that
great.
was my son. That was my son this morning. I'm like, what are you doing awake? It's like
it's
everyone's
yeah,
awake, Dad. Yeah.
but yeah,
Yes,
video
and
games and
I
baking
did
have
forget.
been.
I have been seeing you do. It was about a month ago. I was seeing you do some cooking, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot you do cook."
Yeah, mainly I kind of actually hate cooking for some reason, but I think baking because you can do the dishes while it's in the oven,
Hmm.
so you don't have a huge mess when you're all done. But yeah, no, those are sort of my releases, and then oddly enough, also reading comic books is huge. Like it's a great way for my mind to kind of like I'll look at what other people are doing and I'll be like, oh yeah, and then it just gets me right back into things. So that's what's weird is like, oh, I break away by reconnecting.
So, what was the last thing you read?
I just read this graphic novel called "On a Moonbeam, on a Sunbeam, on a Sunbeam" by Tilly Walden, and it's
Hmm.
out by First Second. It's so good. It's a sci-fi coming of age story, but Tilly Walden is like she's like 25 and has already put out like four fucking 400-page books.
Oh my God.
And I know, and she's so talented and she's queer. So what's really cool about this book is like, it's not like it's so subtle, but and it makes all the difference in reading a sci-fi story that isn't from the perspective of like, you know, like the male protect, like those stories are great, but it's just she does all these little things and she looks at the world so differently than a lot of other writers, and it's still really really good sci-fi. Like Brian K. Vaughan, the quote on the cover, just singing this book's praises. So that was great, and I was really mad at that book because it's so well done, and she's 25 and I fucking hate her. And then right now I'm
In
reading
a loving
Champion.
way.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's keeping me. She makes me want to work more. Looking at her
Sure.
stuff. I had picked the Champion collection, the Mark Wade run with Humberto Ramos art. So I picked up that before coronavirus happened, just because I was like, oh, this is like $15 and like 200 pages. Like, this is going to be great reading. And I've been going through that. That's a lot of fun. And then I'm going to also finish reading Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol during
Hmm.
coronavirus. Like, I got halfway through it, a year or two ago, and then just stopped for whatever reason. So I'm gonna get back on that, and those have been the main things I've been reading lately. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna stop drawing, and switch back to my face. If that's all
Okay.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do the reveal. People, say hi to Sina.
Yeah, that's the other thing you do in quarantine. It's like, okay, guess I'm gonna shave my head. Guess I'm gonna fucking paint my nails because there's nothing else to do besides just shit to your body.
I've been, I don't know if you are a friend of Richard Fairgray, but my heart's been breaking for him because he just released some stuff, but not to necessarily talk about him. What I'm getting about promoting him, I should say, is I've been watching. He's been doing a daily quarantine thing, and he's been doing every day, and it's just he's going nuts. I can tell. So yeah, see, essentially, you're saying he's going stir crazy. He's like, okay, maybe I should paint my nails. What can I do with the cat? What? He's going nuts, and it's so That's why I started doing on my yard. It was like if I don't do something to get my head away from what's going on, like I'm not really watching much news at all, other than
Yeah.
what my wife can tell me. It's like I don't want to fill my head with all that, you know. Now,
Yeah.
again with you, these cons and everything that are being shut down. I know you make a good amount of money doing the tour and stuff like that. Are you going to do any virtual cons, or you have anything lined up?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a virtual panel. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm doing one tomorrow and it's about memoir with Cecil Castellucci. She did Shade, the Changing Girl, um, over at DC. That's a great book, and she's done some
Yeah.
other stuff with like Boom and Dark. She's great. She's a really really good writer. And then I think Gene Yang is going to be on it too. The guy who did Superman Clashes the Clan or whatever. I
Hmm.
forget his full name, and I'm addicted. But anyway, it's gonna if that happens, that's gonna be pretty. But I just say yes to all of it. It's like, I think now, like I said, it's like I love comic books. I love the stores. Like I'm gonna do anything and everything. And then it's also like I love my books. Like so I'm gonna promote the shit out of them however I can. Right now, what I'm doing with Ghosted because I can't Ghost in LA out now. Is because I can't do signings and I can't do. I was supposed to go to Book Expo in New York next month to promote it, and the alternative is basically I'm having this campaign on social media where for however it's like for every five like when we get 5 reviews on Amazon, I have this Google Drive folder. This content will unlock. Then it's like 10 reviews. This other content will unlock. So within a day we've already gotten 10 reviews. So now it's like, okay, well, if there are 25 reviews, I will put up um, my original pitch document that I sent to Boom Studios, and I'll upload scripts. Because I figure it's like people want to learn from that. Who wouldn't want to see a document that got greenlit? For people who want to
Right.
learn how to make it in. And I know a lot of people, they just don't even know what kind of information to put on a pitch document. Like you have to boil your idea down to a one-page sheet. So what information? Anyway, so that's been super good in a good way to kind of get people engaged with something, and how to kind of keep the product listing healthy in a time when you can't really get people out there buying things and talking about things.
Yeah.
um, and then, yeah, and it's like if we get 50 reviews, then I do this, and it's like 75 reviews, that, like, um, so just stuff like that. And yeah, I'm trying to just keep things fun for people as much as possible. That's how I'm keeping myself busy. It's just trying to be lighthearted about it.
Now, are you working now? How should I say? Are you working more now with Boom than you are with anyone else? Because that's what I'm kind of noticing, that you're hanging out with them for the past few years.
No, it's been, I mean, because I have two projects with them right now, like Ghost in LA and then co-writing Go Go Power Rangers.
Right.
But I've been working at DC Comics. So, like, I have a story in the Green Lantern 80th anniversary special that was really exciting. I think I think people don't realize how much I love the superhero books, and it's just because I don't like to like too much of what excites me or my opinions about things online, because I just feel like I don't want to argue with strangers. And if I love something someone hates, I don't want to get into it. Like, so people don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It's like, yeah, I totally dig Green Lantern. Like, I don't dig all, like, I don't, like, and I was rereading a bunch of them, and I was like, oh, I see where I dropped off. Like, I was more of like a Hal Jordan, Parallax, Kyle Rayner fan, and some of this new stuff is like very space core stuff, and I'm
Right.
like, it's cool. I think I like things a little more. I like my stories on Earth. Like, I like superhero stories that take place on Earth. Um, but at any rate, yeah. So that was cool, and getting to work with DC has been great. And then IDW, I am doing this book, Read Only Memories. Um, I don't know how to, there we go.
There you go.
And it goes back to, you only I can only take what's being handed to me. I can only work on what's being offered to me. And then I'm going to be doing a new image series. I don't know when it's launching anymore because of coronavirus, but I was supposed to have an image book launching in June called Getting It Together, which is sort of like it's like a modern version of Friends, where they're not just all kind of like upper class white people living in New York. And I'm really excited about that because it's super weird, it's super raunchy in the best way possible, because it's about people in their 20s dating, and it's like you know it's a little more nuanced and messy than just like Ross and Rachel.
Which
So I'm excited
I've
about that.
noticed, because I actually read some of the previews on that as I was going through some. Well, I was just going through some, ordering some books about 3 days ago, and I stumbled across that book. And I was looking at that. I was looking at Ghost in LA, and I was looking at some other stories, and I was thinking to myself, you're an individual that really likes to tell kind of almost like real life scenario situation stories, as opposed to being something just really out there and can never happen. You actually tell stories like, oh my God, I've actually lived that episode, or yeah, I know someone. You know what I mean? You notice that that's something that you prefer, or you just kind of happen to fall into these things serendipitously?
I think my understanding of how, like, writers or storytellers or whatever, I think we're all just trying to answer questions we have about the world around us, or maybe not. I don't know. That's at least me. Like, I think it's like I'm just trying to kind of answer my own questions, or I'm trying to resolve stuff that I think is interesting. And yeah, I noticed that like I seem very much focused on like the little things. And so it's been you know, and I think that's what like writing Go Go Power Rangers with Ryan Parrott was like super. The great thing I learned from that was like how to take being in love with characters and being in love with like these micro moments for characters, and then putting that, you know, in the middle of a gigantic uh, you know, action story. Because I, you know, yeah, like I love Power Rangers, so it was funny to like be like, well, I just want to talk about like, you know, I want to talk about this beef that Zach has with Jason over here, and it's like, yeah, but you need to also like draw the Thunder Megazord, like you need to write the Thunder Megazord like exploding and then or like pairing up with, you know, this other robot thing. Um, so I do like to focus kind of on the small things, and I think it comes from too just like you go like you hear your friends tell you stories, and it's like nothing is crazier than reality. Like nothing is crazier than the shit people actually do to each other. Um, and I think that's what also makes the books like I always like stand by what I write because I'm like, well, this like kind of happened to someone I knew, so I feel like you know, that sort of logic protects it from criticism. Except that's not true, but that's kind of where my head goes with it.
So, as far as your story with the robot there, the
Mm-hmm.
the game one, how now
Yeah,
that's essentially that's another like love story, right?
it's a well that yeah, it's so Read Only Memories is based off this video game called 2064 Read Only Memories, and it's a huge cult. Like I didn't know about it, and then I looked it up and was like, whoa, this thing is super popular with like, you know, gamers.
Mhm.
And and it takes place in the future where uh, AI basically achieves sentience, and so they, you know, it's like Westworld in that like you're talking a lot about like willpower and you know, what does it mean to be, you know, perceived as like something with rights, you know, um, like that shit's so interesting, like, you know, like robots getting civil rights type of thing. And what does, you know, what qualifies someone as like a being of sorts. And then, you know, it's a really cool world that's very like steampunk, neo noir, like very Blade Runnery. It's like super sexy. Um, and again, I didn't know. I like they asked me if I would want to pitch for it, and I wasn't familiar with the franchise, so I just kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna this is what I think would be cool, and if they want to do it, like I'll do it. But if they don't, like no harm. Like I'm not gonna bend over backwards to try and tell the story they want to read. And of
Mhm.
course they were like, whoa, we fucking love this. And it was like the idea was it's like we're following a PI who was in the game. Her name is Lexi Rivers, and she is tracking down a missing person who fell in love with a robot. And she basically the character goes down this rabbit hole. But what's great is like there's this whole subplot of her just kind of like not necessarily like buying like that this robot's in love with a human, that this human's in love with a robot. Like she's kind of just like, oh, like this is a weird fetish. Like you're a robot, like you don't feel love. And so there's this real undercurrent of um, like even just the notion of taste. Like robots are developing their own taste, you know, and where does taste come from? Not like taste buds, but just like, you know, in a like in the second or third issue, the robot adopts a dog, and she's like, "This dog is so beautiful," and Lexi's like, "That dog is fucking hideous. Like, you adopted the ugliest dog ever." And you know, they just have this back and forth about even like what does beauty mean? You know, like that's
Right.
so all objective. Um, so it's just a way for I'm taking a you know I'm going into a sci-fi concept and a noir concept, and then I'm just focusing a lot. Sorry, there's a helicopter.
Oh, it's
And then
okay.
I just focus on the shit I care about. So
Well,
that's been a
when the
great.
reason why I was bringing it up is for me what I find neat. is when people can humanize things that are either fiendish or non-human. So if it's a, I mean, if it's a, in the case of like a zombie, there's a couple of zombie movies out there where you actually feel bad for the zombie. They actually humanize the
Right.
zombie and make, or in the case of this story that you're talking about, you humanize the robot to where it's hard for a person not to feel for this inanimate object. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm getting at is one, how is that process of you writing to where you can get the reader to feel for this thing? And then two, how difficult is that in that journey?
Um, I think, well, I think I read years ago, and I wish I could remember where, and I wish I could remember what exactly the quote was. But Alan Moore said in an interview, like he was doing a signing in the Deep South when he did signings back when he was writing Swamp Thing, and or maybe it was a convention, not a signing, and he was a little internally nervous because he was like, "Oh God, like I'm kind of writing like you know like people in the swamp as like fucking like there's not some great depictions of people in that book or whatever." And the folks came up to him and were really reverent and really appreciative. And again, I wish I could remember the exact words. I'm totally getting this wrong, but the his he was basically like, but I love every character. Like I write every character like I love them. And so even if they're the bad guy, I love them. And even if they're just this background character, I love them. And I think that's the key to like trying to create a compelling cast is you've got to love them. You've got to see what they think is their light. And I think if you're then applying that to a robot, you it all opens up to you. You try to figure out like what makes this thing special and why do I love it and how do I give it humanity. Um, and it wasn't a challenge with read only memories because I played the game and I think it was like, oh, I see what the fans see. Like I see what the fan is getting out of this experience, or and then also like I think humor is just the quickest attempt to try and make something human or something different. And um but yeah, it's and it's also that line from like Mean Girls where they see the teacher at the mall and it's like, oh, it's like watching a dog walk on its hind legs. Like um I think even mimicking human behavior can let down the defenses a bit, from the reader. So I don't know. And that's how I tried. I don't know if I succeeded. We'll find out when the trade comes out if people like the book or not. But that's where I went, and it it was a fun challenge. I
It's
don't know.
it's not it's not an easy task. A lot of people actually fail at that because that is a major part of the story. And what you just described, you have to create that belief, that suspended disbelief of that it's just a robot. You try to create more than what appearing that it is. And some people just can't do it. You know what I mean? And that's why I asked, how challenging is it? Because I know it's easy just to write a simple story, but to write one with such depth, it usually takes an individual that is introspective.
I mean,
You
hey,
have to have self before you can write something like that. So
well,
that's
and I
why I
think
was asking, how challenging is it?
yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm doing okay in this quarantine. Is like I'm already trapped at home with my thoughts 7 days a week. This is what I do every day anyway, so it's just a little more magnified. And but I learned a lot. And back to like Go Go Power Rangers and working with Ryan is like I think what was a bigger challenge was trying to write like Lord Zed and his minions with any depth outside because like they still have to kind of follow a certain speech pattern of always being like, oh, your dreadfulness, oh, your highness. And Lord Zed kind of always has to talk about how much he wants to like just annihilate these children. um and it was really interesting working with Ryan and learning from him about how to add a little more depth to that, like, and kind of trying to figure out like what was the difference, like what's the difference between Babu versus Squat, and what's the difference between Babu and Squat versus Finster, and what's the difference, how, like, where's Goldar coming from, and it was so cool to just spend a lot of time thinking about these characters that, like, they don't really get a lot of screen time for emotions in the show. It's like you're watching the show, like a nugget of personality outside of them just like grunting and screaming or like groveling. Um, so that was kind of where I would say I found myself the most kind of put to the test in terms of characterization and stuff like that.
It's funny that you bring up Ryan now twice because I've found myself now reading more of his stuff between the crossover, the mutants, and the Teenage Mutants, and he's doing the Army of Darkness.
Oh, he
And
did.
yeah, he's doing what was it, it's called Death to the Army of Darkness. He's doing that ongoing series right now.
Oh,
And
great.
what I find about his writing is he has a way of, no matter what the scenarios are happening in the book, he can still throw a little comical twist in there. So he can slightly remove some of the hardcore aspects of what's going on or actually exemplify it sometimes with the same joke, which is a neat task in his writing. So it's funny that you brought him up because I've never been a reader of his until I followed you over at Brave New World, and then met him and got that crossover, and that's what got me into the book. So hey, I think he owes you at least lunch.
I owe him at least lunch because I got a lot of I learned. I don't know. He's a great guy. He's a great guy, and he's also a really talented writer, and he's really giving about explaining his process. And yeah, I think he's gonna like. It's like, yeah, I think he's a good egg, and I think he's got some more stories to tell in him. I hate to do this. I need to use the bathroom soon, so if we
I
can
think we're
wrap
good
up.
right now. No, I think we're good. Hey, community, we appreciate you being here. If you haven't got to see many of Sina Grace's works, that's only because you're not looking. And Sina, thank
Boom.
you. Yeah, there's Time Police that's out right now. There's Ghosted in LA that's out right now. There's trades that'll be coming out. Sina, is there anything that you want to tell the community before we go?
Just be nice to people in comics. It's a hard gig, and we do it because we love it. And yeah, support your local comic store. Find a way to help them out. Find a way to buy books or just send them some money right now because we need them.
Couldn't said it better. Hey, Sina, again, I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to you actually coming back on, especially when the trade drops, and we can spend more time, and because yeah, I could sit and spend forever with you. So,
Cool. Yeah, same.
but
I'd love
hey,
to.
community, thank you very much from me at 1-2 Comic Talk and Artist Alley, and hopefully we'll see Christy next week. So thank you. 1-2 Comic Talk. We're out. Bye.